Welcome to a new Daily Top Askreddit video. Today's topic: what's a really awkward situation that everyone can relate with? When you start to tell a story in a group but in middle of sentence realize that no one is actually listening and ever so slowly you get quiet and hope no one took notice. Edit. Wow, seems someone did take notice this time. I asked myself a few times what might be wrong with me BC of this, but I also could imagine I'm not the only one this is happening. But I don't think that something is wrong with you. It's just all too often that people just don't think so much. I think people in general mean no harm. They maybe were in this moment just not as emphatic or don't have the antenna in the everyday hustle and bustle to notice something that doesn't jump in the face with a neon sign. Figuratively speaking, or as for this case, notice someone's contribution that is not bursting with self-confidence or provides the perfect introduction, but perhaps acts rather a bit introverted. When they don't realize that you were getting quiet, at first you think good, nobody noticed, but seconds later you start to feel bad that nobody was really paying attention to you, not even hearing that you were making noises, and that feels awful. Just heard the "Why Are We Still Here" song in my head while reading this because it happens a lot. Edit, https://be/fbe-org. Whenever I noticed that happening I specifically look the person telling the story in the eyes like it's fine, just pretend you were only telling the story to me all along. I try to be that person too, but it backfires because I'm not the person that they wanted to listen to them, so they just stop telling the story anyway. Feels bad. When you've had multiple interactions with someone but you can't remember their name, but it's gone too far to admit you've forgotten it, so you just have to call them love or mate forever. I have a trick for this. Start being more loving to them, eventually getting into relationship. As this moves further, propose and they'll say yes, and then when you're getting married, wait till the pastor turns and says, "And will you person's name marry your name?" And boom, you now know their name. What if we're having sex and she tells me to say her name? Standing there while two people talk about something you don't know about. Even worse when you're wanting to leave the conversation but feel like you need to have an excuse to leave. I have to poop and giggle. Let them figure out which is more awkward. When you try to contribute to a conversation and someone cuts you off multiple times. And you patiently wait for your turn to speak, even though it already was, but by the time the air is clear, the subject has already changed and what you were going to say is now irrelevant. I used to be a habitual cutter offer when I was younger. I wasn't trying to be rude, I was just excited for what I had to say. I've reformed that behavior now, but if I notice this happening to someone else, I'll make sure to call attention to the person trying to talk. "What was that, John?" Or something along those lines to make sure everyone is heard. Yes. Or repeats something, like a joke, you said, which nobody heard, and everyone chimes in with laughter and / or agreement. Key and Peele did a pretty funny skit about that. When you're having a conversation with someone and you don't hear what they say, so you ask them to repeat and they do. But you still don't hear it and ask them to repeat again and they do. And you still don't know what they said. Do you ask them to repeat again, and maybe still not hear it? Pretend you heard it and nod your head and hope it's an appropriate response. Stab yourself in the eye with a pen to create a diversion and change the subject. Just laugh, say yeah, and hope they didn't just tell you their dad just died. Haha, yeah. Literally the worst thing that can ever happen to a human being. No, the worst is when they get angry at you for not hearing it. Or not understanding it, because they speak the worst English you have heard in your life, but they think they are good at it and the thing they said was a pun, and the point of the pun is lost because bread and breath really doesn't sound the same enough for it to be funny, so you just go ha for the second time, and then they roll their eyes and leave, thinking you're the stupid one. When you're walking past coworker and you've already said hello earlier. Everyone's making that weird flat smile. That walk down a long hallway toward each other where you've clearly seen the other person, but they are too far away to say something, so you do the awkward look around until you get close enough to say hey and keep walking. Edit, thanks. You say bye to them and then head to walk into the same direction, glance at each other and give an awkward smile. The longest walk. When you're finishing up at the checkout and the cashier puts the notes on top of the receipt and then coins on top of that. Then the next person steps up and you're fumbling, trying to disassemble the stack in your hand, gather your shopping, say thanks and move away at the same time. In the UK, it's extra sucky because you bag your groceries yourself. If you aren't quick enough, you have to do all of what you mentioned as well as quickly finish the packing while everyone stares at you waiting for you to hurry. When I was a cashier, I made it a point to hand them their coin, hand them their currency, and unless requested otherwise, I would put the receipt in the bag for this very reason. Same here. A manager taught me that. I was so annoyed with him at the time, but now I realize what a good tip it was. Saying hello or how are you to somebody and getting 100% ignored. Worse when someone else you know is there too and notices you getting ignored. That's when I just say good talk. Helps me feel like I save face just a bit. That awkward moment where you and somebody else try to let each other speak but you both try speak at the same time and just keep failing. That would be a Skype /Teams moment. It's happened to us countless times. Especially since we're all now working from home. Sorry, go ahead. Silence. Being at a friend's house as a kid and the friend's mother starts yelling at your friend. Being at a friend's house as a kid and the friend's father walks in only wearing underwear. The opposite as well, having a friend over and your parents do this. Or worse, your parents try involve your friend in the argument asking them if they would do that / would their parents put up with it. So fucked up. When you think someone waves at you so you wave back, but they were waving at someone behind you. Not long ago at church we were asked to turn and greet people. I turned around and the guy said hi to me and stuck his hand out to shake. I went for it and realized he was talking to the woman beside me. She and I both ended up with a hand in his hand at the same time trying to shake it. They both looked at me and I quickly turned around and pretended it didn't happen, which made it more awkward. And then rest of the service I couldn't stop laughing about it. This is standard for me. Awkward church laughter is the worst, especially if you're trapped between people and can't excuse yourself to leave and get a handle on it privately. Also particularly bad if it happens during a funeral. You ever clogged a toilet in somewhere that was your house? Thank guys, my inbox is now clogged with all of your oversized shit stories. Can't wait to binge read all of it. Edit 2. Guys, please stop sending stories. I don't think my inbox could survive more of this. It's on intense medication RN. Edit 3. Inbox funeral later at 3 p.m. Y'all are invited. Oh man, I show up to pick her up for our first date. I asked if I could use her toilet before we left, and only had to pee. Speaking of, why the hell doesn't everyone have a plunger? It's a common item, and there really isn't a reason not to have one. Most people I know have the logic that because clogs rarely happen they don't bother buying a plunger. That's like not putting an alarm in a bank because people barely break into banks nowadays. When you walk out of the store empty-handed, feeling like you've just stole something. It's worse if you make eye contact with the cashier. Or worse, the security guy. And you went in the store with a bag from another one, you know it and I know it. You should go to jail. Walking through a doorway only to catch your clothes on the handle and have it slingshot you backwards. Happens only when you're angry. Same with trying to slam a door out of anger and it somehow gets magically slowed by the air resistance and it just closes a little harder than normal. When you reply to a stranger who says hello, but then realize they were on the phone and not speaking to you. Happened to me just yesterday and I didn't get any sleep last night as I couldn't stop reliving the moment. AirPods have made this one so much more common. It's really annoying, especially if you work in retail. I used to go to college with a girl who got the same train home as me, and we would always walk to the train station together chatting. But as soon as we sat down on the train she would call one of her friends without warning and start talking to them on hands-free, so I always every single time thought she was talking to me and I'd reply and she'd ignore me. Cringe every day. When you're saying goodbye to someone, and then you both end up walking in the same direction. Or when you turn and walk into a wall with people watching. Edit, my first awards ever. So glad my forms of awkwardness resonate with others. Also when you realize you've forgotten something and need to turn around, but you don't want to just turn around abruptly because that would make you look insane. So you do a little performance where you get your phone out, pretend to check a message, sort of mime aha. And then turn around. Or cross the street and then turn around to throw any observers off the scent. I used to do that until I read a very similar comment on Tumblr. Now I just turn the fuck around and go where I wanted to. Ever drag your shoe across a tile floor and have it make a loud, wet, fart sound, so everyone in the room looks at you? Then you insist it was your shoe and try to make the sound again, but nothing happens. Yeah, that. And leather couches. And then you try to keep moving around to replicate it to show everyone that it's actually the couch, but it never does, so you're just sitting there avoiding eye contact. No, never happened to me. When you say a funny joke but all you get is silence. I did this on a Zoom staff meeting yesterday. It was worse online, somehow. Now you're that guy in the office. I told a complete, long story to a big group of near strangers and received complete silence. I still cringe about that. It was a pretty good lesson. A new group of people are not your old group of friends. They don't know you and you don't know their humor yet. I give tours in a cavern and sprinkle puns and jokes in with the information. Normally. Great reactions. This tour. Not a single laugh. I think one person may have cracked a smile. But the rest were just staring at me. I actually said, come on, just give me a laugh every now and then or this is gonna be awkward, as that usually breaks the ice or whatever and fixes the problem. One person snickered. The rest stared. It was a 70-minute tour, y'all. 70 minutes of nearly zero laughter.